You know, there's something about Mount Everest that most people never really get to see. Not the drama, not the headlines, just the mountain itself. Tonight, we're going to walk it together. Slowly, quietly, from the bottom all the way to the top. No rushing, no disaster stories, just the mountain as it unfolds. We'll move through each camp one at a time, and I'll point out what's around us as we go. Think of this as a chance to just be there, to see what it actually looks like, to feel the scale of it. So if you're ready, let's start at the beginning. Right now, you're looking at Everest Base Camp on the Nepal side. This is where everything begins. As the camera pulls back slowly, you can see how the camp sits in this wide, rocky basin, surrounded on all sides by ridges and glaciers. It's lower than you might think, sheltered in a way. The tents scatter across the rocks like small dots of color, yellows, reds, blues. From up here, you can see just how temporary it all is, how small. Let's pause here for a moment. Look around. To your right, that's Pumori, a beautiful pyramid of rock and ice. To your left, the Khumbu Glacier winds down the valley like a frozen river. And straight ahead, if you follow the line of the glacier upward, that's the Khumbu Icefall. That's where we're headed next. But for now, this is home. This is where climbers wait, adjust, and prepare, where they spend weeks moving up and down, letting their bodies adapt. The air here is thin, but breathable. The sky is wide, the mountains around you feel close, and Everest is still far above. If you look carefully at the upper slopes, past the icefall, past the ridges, you can just barely make out the summit pyramid. It's there, distant, almost unreal. Base camp sits at 5,364 meters. That's already higher than any point in the continental United States, higher than Mont Blanc. And yet, from here, the summit is still more than 3,000 meters above you. That's the height of 10 Empire State Buildings, stacked. But we're not thinking about that yet. Right now, we're just here, at the beginning. Let's start moving. Now we're moving upward. This section, the Khumbu Icefall, it's honestly one of the strangest parts of the mountain. As you can see, the terrain here isn't rock. It's ice, massive blocks of it, stacked and tilted at wild angles. As we move through slowly, and you start to get a sense of the scale. These aren't small pieces. Some of these ice towers, called seracs, are the size of buildings, 4, 5 stories tall. Stay with this view for a second. Notice how the ice isn't smooth. It's fractured, cracked, layered. The glacier is moving downhill constantly, maybe a meter a day, and as it moves, it buckles and breaks. That's what creates this chaos. Climbers move through here using aluminum ladders laid across the gaps. You can almost imagine the sound. Metal creaking, boots crunching, ice shifting somewhere in the distance. It's not steep in the traditional sense. The angle is maybe 30 to 40 degrees, but it's just unpredictable. The route changes every season because the ice changes, and it goes on for about 2 kilometers. As we continue upward, you can see the path winding between the towers. Left, then right, then left again. There's no straight line through. By the time you reach the top of the icefall, you've climbed roughly 500 to 600 meters. That takes most climbers 4 to 6 hours, but the strange part, you're still barely on the mountain. The icefall ends, and the Western Cwm begins, and that's where Camp 1 sits, right at that threshold. Here's Camp 1. The camera settles now, and you can see it, perched right at the edge where the icefall ends and the Western Cwm begins. It's a flat spot, just wide enough for a handful of tents. From this angle, you can see what's behind you, the chaos of the icefall, the blocks of ice still towering in the background, and what's ahead? A long, slow valley of snow, the Western Cwm. Let's pause here and just look at it. It stretches out for kilometers, gradually rising, smooth, almost peaceful compared to what you just came through. The walls on either side are enormous. On your left, that's Lhotse, a massive ridge of rock and ice. On your right, the west shoulder of Everest itself. And at the far end of the Cwm, barely visible from here, is the Lhotse Face, that blue-gray wall in the distance. That's where we're going eventually. Camp 1 feels exposed. There's no shelter. The wind moves freely across this section, funneling through the valley. Climbers don't stay here long. It's more of a waypoint than a camp, a place to rest for a few hours, maybe sleep briefly, then keep moving. But it's also the moment you realize you're inside the mountain now. The world outside, the villages, the forests, the green valleys, they're all below you, behind you. From here on, it's just snow and rock and sky. Let's keep going. We're moving through the Western Cwm now. This overhead shot makes it clear. It's like a wide hallway of snow, walled in on both sides by massive ridges. The thing about the Cwm is, it's flat, almost suspiciously flat. You're walking on a glacier, but it feels like walking across a massive snow field. The altitude is rising slowly, a few hundred meters over the next few kilometers, but the slope is gentle. As the camera moves forward, you can see how the light plays across the snow, bright, almost blinding. What makes the Cwm hard isn't the angle, it's the sun. The walls on either side trap the heat. There's no shade, no place to hide. It can feel surprisingly warm here, sometimes well above freezing, even at this altitude. Climbers call it the Valley of Silence. And as the camera moves forward, you start to understand why. It's vast, empty, quiet. The wind is usually light here. The walls block most of it, so the only sound is your own breathing, your own footsteps in the snow. Now, look to your left. See how Lhotse rises? That ridgeline is over 7,800 meters high. And yet, from here, it doesn't even look that steep. That's how big this valley is. Look to your right. That's the west shoulder of Everest, the western flank. Most people never see this side. It's hidden unless you're right here, in the Cwm. And ahead, that wall is getting closer, the Lhotse Face. But first, Camp 2. This is Camp 2, also called Advanced Base Camp. As you can see, it's tucked into the center of the Western Cwm, still flat, still wide open. From this view, you can see the tents scattered across the snow. Some expeditions set up larger camps here. Dining tents, storage areas, communications equipment. This is where climbers spend the most time during the acclimatization process. They come up here, stay a night or two, then go back down to base camp, then they come back up again, sometimes 3 or 4 times. It's a slow process, a patient one. Camp 2 sits at 6,400 meters. That's higher than Denali in Alaska, higher than any peak in the Alps, higher than Kilimanjaro, and yet, when you look up from here, Everest still feels impossibly far away. Let's stay here for a moment. Turn around, look back the way we came. You can see the Western Cwm stretching behind you, narrowing toward Camp 1. The icefall is somewhere down there, out of sight now, and beyond that, even further. Base camp, tiny, almost invisible. We've come so far already, and yet, we're only about halfway. Now turn back around, face forward. If you look straight ahead toward the far end of the Cwm, that wall of ice in the distance, that's the Lhotse Face. And that's where we're going next. The air is noticeably thinner now. You can feel it in the way your body slows down. Everything takes more effort, walking, thinking, even resting. But this is still manageable. This is still a place where you can think clearly, where you can sit and have a conversation, for a little while longer anyway. Camp 2 is also the last place that feels relatively safe, relatively comfortable. Beyond this point, the mountain becomes more serious. Let's keep moving. Now, this is where things change. The Lhotse Face. As the camera tilts upward, you can see it. A near vertical wall of blue glacial ice rising over 1,000 meters. This is the first time on the climb where the mountain feels truly steep. Stay with this view, notice the color of the ice. It's not white like the snow in the Cwm, it's blue, deep blue. That means it's old ice, compressed over decades, maybe centuries. The face isn't smooth. As we zoom in, you can see the texture. Ripples, fractures, lines running diagonally across the slope. This is hard, dense glacial ice. Climbers ascend using fixed ropes, thin lines anchored into the ice. You clip in and move one step at a time, front points of your crampons biting into the slope. It's slow, and it goes up and up. The thing about the Lhotse Face is this: there's nowhere to hide. You're completely exposed. The wind hits you directly, the sun reflects off the ice, doubling the intensity, and Camp 3 is about halfway up this wall. Let's keep going. Here's Camp 3, carved into a narrow ledge on the Lhotse Face. As the view rotates slowly, you can see just how small the space is. A few tents anchored to the ice with ropes and ice screws, nothing else. Just enough flat space to lie down. Below you, the Western Cwm spreads out like a white carpet. You can see Camp 2 down there, small now, distant. Above you, the face continues, steeper now, darker. At 7,162 meters, this is where the body starts to change. The air here contains less than half the oxygen available at sea level. Recovery becomes slower, sleep becomes difficult. Your body is working harder just to keep warm, just to breathe. Climbers don't stay here long. They rest, but the body can't fully recover at this altitude. You're holding steady, not improving. Let's pause here. Look out across the Cwm. Notice how far you can see now. The ridges, the valleys, the peaks in the distance. You're higher than most mountains in the world. And yet, the summit is still 1,600 meters above you. Camp 3 is not comfortable. It's a pause, a necessary stop before the final push. And from here, the South Col is still above. Let's keep moving. We're moving higher now. The route curves to the right, cutting across the top of the Lhotse Face and heading toward a saddle, a flat area between Lhotse and Everest. This is called the South Col. As the camera moves upward, you start to see the landscape flatten out again. After the relentless steepness of the Lhotse Face, this feels almost surreal. The South Col sits at 7,906 meters. It's a windswept plateau of rock, ice, and old equipment. Nothing grows here. The air is too thin, the environment too harsh. The wind here is constant. Some days it's calm enough to move. Other days it reaches speeds that make climbing impossible. This is Camp 4. This is the last stop before the summit. Right now, you're looking at the South Col. The tents here are bright, yellow, red, blue, clinging to the rocks, held down by anchors and stones. From this aerial view, you can see how exposed this place is. There's no protection. The wind carves across the plateau without resistance. Let's pause here and look around. Looking back the way we came, you can see the Lhotse Face below, the long diagonal line we climbed, the Western Cwm beyond that. And in the far distance, base camp, tiny, almost invisible now. We've come so far. Looking ahead, that ridgeline to the upper right, that's the Southeast Ridge. That's the final route. And at the top of that ridge, somewhere beyond what you can clearly see from here, is the summit. Climbers leave Camp 4 around midnight. They climb through the night, headlamps glowing in the darkness, trying to reach the top by mid-morning. From here to the summit is about 900 vertical meters. It takes most climbers 8 to 12 hours. Let's keep going. This is the Southeast Ridge. It's a long winding line of snow and rock that snakes toward the sky. As we follow the ridge upward, you can see how narrow it becomes. In some places, it's only a meter or two wide, with steep drops on both sides. The first major landmark is the balcony, a small, flatter section at about 8,400 meters. It's a place to rest, catch your breath, adjust your oxygen. Beyond that, the South Summit, a false peak at 8,749 meters. From a distance, it looks like the top, but it's not. And then, the final stretch. The Hillary Step used to be here, a near vertical rock face that climbers had to climb over. But after the 2015 earthquake, the step partially collapsed. Now it's a steep snow slope, still challenging, but different. And then, the summit ridge. It's narrow, really narrow, like walking along the spine of the mountain. Let's go there now. This is it, 8,849 meters, the highest point on Earth. The camera is still now. The movement stops. Let's just stay here for a moment. From here, you can see everything. To the south, the hills of Nepal roll away into the haze. Valleys, ridges, rivers you can barely make out. The world stretches on and on. To the north, the Tibetan plateau stretches flat and brown toward the horizon. Vast, endless, other peaks, Lhotse, Makalo, Cho Oyu, rise around you, but they're all below you now. The summit itself is small, just a rounded dome of snow, barely wide enough for a few people to stand. Prayer flags snap in the wind, old ones, faded and torn, mixed with new ones. Blue, white, red, green, yellow, they flutter constantly. The sky here looks darker, deeper. The air is so thin, it feels closer to space than Earth. And the silence. Even with the wind, there's a kind of stillness, of vastness. You made it, not by climbing, but by seeing. By walking each step, by pausing at each camp, by feeling the scale of it. This is Everest. So, that's the mountain. Not the stories, not the headlines. Just the mountain. Camp by camp, piece by piece. I hope this gave you a sense of what it actually looks like, how it unfolds, how vast it really is, how quiet. Thanks for walking it with me. Until next time.